with Liberty University Online. I have a question for you today. Am I my brother's keeper? Are you? Some of you are familiar with that phrase. It comes from the Bible in the book of Genesis chapter 4, verse 9 in the Bible. Cain answered God in this way. He symbolized people's unwillingness to accept responsibility for the welfare of others. As a Christian, I live by the Bible teachings of Jesus, particularly the scriptures, where it says in Mark 12:31, "Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." There is no other commandment greater than this commandment. My mother and my grandmother were especially known in the community for doing good works for people. They took in people, they took care of them, they were good people, and they were good support people. That legacy has been passed down to their children, and I pass that legacy down to my children. Christians must lead by example. One of the most beautiful stories in the Bible is the Good Samaritan. That comes out of Luke 10:30, where Jesus asked the question, "Who is thy neighbor?" A man had been attacked by thieves and was laying on the side of the road. A priest and a Levite went by, and they crossed to the other side and pretended that they did not even see the man. After a while, a Samaritan came by. In those days, Samaritans were known as sinners, but he stopped. He took the man. He took him to someone's house, and he paid for the man's upkeep until he was well and on his way. This is what God wants us to be. He wants us to be our brother's keeper. One thing I would like to tell you about that we need to think about in our walk in life is passiveness and lack of empathy in humanity. It produces a less thriving and less productive society. Lack of involvement can produce negative results. We don't have any time. We're uninterested in what people do. Negative responses help create lack of self-esteem and poor character. We need to encourage and motivate each other. Lack of love produces intolerance and hatred. The heart produces either positive or negative results, and this is what we need to keep in mind. Practice being emphatic. The definition of empathy is the action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and experiencing the feelings and thoughts of others. That comes from the Webster Dictionary. What does my brother's keeper mean? According to an article by Daykeeper, Cain attempted to avoid the consequences of his action after he killed his brother Abel by asking God that very question, "Am I my brother's keeper?" But God knew all along what Cain had done. He asked Cain that question to show us that we should be responsible in caring for one another and looking out for each other, especially our brothers. In his book, The Journey, well-known preacher and evangelist Billy Graham points out that Christians should make an impact on others by the way we live. We should be burdened about problems that plague the human race, such as poverty, disease, sickness, ignorance, environmental damage, racism, violence, and war, just to name a few. He went about helping people all of his life. My grandma Betty was a beautiful example because she had a neighbor who was very mean to her for a lot of years in her life, but she showed her neighbor love. And in the end, love won out because they became best friends. Empathy should start in the home. Bishop T.D. Jakes gives a lot of credit for his positive character and his Christian living and success to his mother. He states in his book, "Mama made the difference. Maybe I learned how to support people because I had a mother who supported me." Experience and feelings. This one is very special. This is the story of Stanley Tookie Williams, co-founder and leader of the notorious Crip gang. I know you've all heard of the Bloods and the Crips. Well, Stanley Tookie Williams started and co-founded the Crip gang, and he lived on the street as a street warrior at 16 years of age. But before he died, he had been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. While incarcerated in prison, he found peace with God, and he wrote children's books and desperately tried to change what he had done. He made a turnaround. In prison, he wrote those books, and they were used in the United States, Africa, and Switzerland in schools and juvenile correction facilities. Now, we must realize that there is a need, and we need to be positive and do a positive action. We are our brother's keeper everywhere we go, home, church, community, neighborhood. We must be our brother's keeper. So today we have learned the importance of loving and caring for one another. And this is God's direct commandment coming from Matthew 19:19. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And we had positive role models. Billy Graham went about helping others. Ma Betty did a good thing with her neighbor and made a best friend. T.D. Jakes gave his mother credit for all the things that she did, and he was a better man, a well-known preacher, and a writer. Stanley Tooker Williams turned his life around and made a difference. Daykeeper told us about the Good Samaritan. They let us know how we should be and what we should be, and how we should act as Good Samaritans. But most of all, and best of all, last but not least, is Jesus Christ, the Alpha, the Omega, and the beginning. He is the one who gave us the perfect example for being a Good Samaritan. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed this information. Don't forget to read your handouts. God bless you.
That was good. 527, Grandma.